And we're live. Good morning, everybody. My name's Waldo.
I'm modular.
All right. Um, going to get chat started just in case. Not that I can see it, but I am going to get it going. How you doing today?
Pretty good.
Cool.
Got my computer set up last week.
Yeah. Tell me about it. What kind of stuff you got? I
Well,
was looking at your stats, and they were very nice.
I have an i9 13900K.
We are at it once again.
And I have an NVIDIA 3090 Ti.
Mm-hmm.
It's got 64 gigs of RAM, DDR5. It can be upgraded to have 128 gigs of RAM if I need to.
Okay.
And it's got 2 terabytes of solid state memory.
That is very nice, and you far outweighed me. I'm still on a 1070 video card, but it's been chugging along for many years. Doing
I figure
good work.
this is like a 10-year computer. You know, I probably won't have to upgrade anything for a long time.
Yeah.
So, as long as nothing craps out on me, then this is the beast that I'm running with for a long while now.
Okay. And I should have chat now. There it is. Fantastic. All right. Well, ready to dive into the news?
Sure.
Okay. So where do we want to start? Let me pop up my screen here. This one. Not a whole ton going on this week. I mean, kind of a quiet week. I mean, it's December, I suppose. The Mr. Ron DeSantis has finally given a definition to woke. Do you know about this entire issue?
Not really.
Okay, so there was I think it's a stunt. I mean, I'll say that right off the bat. It's a stunt. Mr. Ron DeSantis has suspended an elected official. That elected official's name is Andrew Warren. He is a state attorney. Yeah, Andrew Warren is a state attorney. So Mr. DeSantis has suspended him from his elected position because he is too woke.
Is that why?
Oh yeah. And that's what this court case is about right now. Like, can you define woke? And because the guy sued, he's like, hey, yeah, you can't just fire me for my political ideals. And then he sued, and then it's going to court right now. And the court has asked Mr. DeSantis' lawyers to define woke, and they have.
Doesn't seem like he suspended him for being woke. It seems like he suspended him for refusing to perform his duties as a prosecutor.
It's not what I found, but okay. Well, how so?
Well, from a quick Google, I mean, it says that he suspended him for neglect of duty.
Because he refused to.
Because he refused to enforce the law.
No, he refused. He said that if laws come up about banning abortion, he wouldn't do it. He wouldn't prosecute them. And that's what they say. Well, sure, yeah. Did DeSantis, a Republican, have sufficient legal reason to remove Warren, a Democrat, or was it because he disagrees with him politically? So that is what the case is about. The governor said he suspended the twice-elected state attorney because Warren signed pledges against prosecuting abortion and transgender health care, and because of his policies against pursuing certain misdemeanors. So this prosecutor hasn't even done the thing that they said. He's just telling them. He's telling the people because he signed a pledge against prosecuting abortion and transgender health care. Is he an elected prosecutor allowed to do that?
To just not prosecute cases?
Yeah, they choose not to prosecute cases all the time. Either
Okay.
because
Well,
the evidence is the prosecutors get a case. I mean, somebody's arrested for something. There's some sort of a trial or something along those lines. They decide whether or not it's worth it. Um,
sure. And the governor does have the authority to suspend the attorney
right, he does have the authority to
it,
suspend him
for that purpose, for that reason.
for a reason, and this attorney can sue and say, "Hey, that's not a good reason,"
Well, then it'll go through the court process.
and it is.
Great.
And it is right now. And then we've gotten um, a definition of woke that I'm sure I found here.
I think you mentioned it last week.
Oh no, what?
It was the acronym.
No. That's the woke bill. They're just defining the word woke. This is what I said last week. It means whatever they want it to mean. But um, let's see. Ryan Newman, DeSantis' general counsel, said that the term referred to the belief there are systemic injustices in American society and the need to address them. That's what woke means legally now, according to them.
Okay.
Should
And that's a little bit of a tame definition.
Yeah, I know. It's I don't even think. Yeah, woke was a slang term for progressive activism.
That sounds a little more
That sounds a little more
accurate.
correct, but if you know the
Yeah.
legal definition, but uh, yeah, that's what the court case is about at the moment. The guy got removed by the governor. He says it's because of his political opinions. And the governor says, like you mentioned, he's not going to do his job. Not that he hasn't yet, but he has said that he won't do it. And I would comprehend what this prosecutor is going for when he signs a pledge against prosecuting abortion and transgender healthcare. Because if he tries to prosecute somebody for those things, a higher court is just going to throw it out.
What
And
do you mean?
I mean, if this guy suspects that he's the prosecutor and the case before him is someone had an abortion, and he's by Florida law supposed to prosecute that, but he knows that the court is he's going to prosecute them, waste a lot of time and effort, and then the judge is going to be like, no, this isn't a crime, and then throw it out. Well,
Oh, well,
shouldn't
hold
he
on.
have the
Well, first of all, you don't know what laws in particular that he's refusing to enforce. It just says prosecuting abortion and transgender healthcare cases
right?
and pursuing certain misdemeanors.
Mm-hmm.
So, without having a better idea of what exactly he is pledging not to enforce, I mean, like you very well could have a winning case as the prosecution against someone who gets like say a third term abortion,
Mm-hmm.
right?
You could, depending on
So
the
is the
laws and the
governor
judges.
saying
Sure.
that he is not going to prosecute those cases, for example? Um, like it really depends on what it is that he decides he's not prosecuting. But with just this terminology, I really can't say one way or the other whether I think that he'd actually be wasting his time if he chose to pursue those kind of charges.
Okay. So it is a stunt then, because the cases haven't come to him. He just signed a pledge and said he won't do this. And as you said, you can't really make a decision. Then Ron DeSantis is jumping the gun a little bit.
Maybe.
And if he's jumping the gun, then this guy has uh, room to sue for his for crimes he hasn't committed, or he hasn't not yet done his job. How do I phrase that? He's not being fired for not doing his job. He's being fired. He's being fired for telling you he's not going to do a part of the job because he doesn't think it would make any sense. I don't know. But both, I think Ron DeSantis jumped the gun to make a political point. I think he is doing another stunt, just like he did with the Martha's Vineyard immigrants. He wants
Sure.
to run
I
for
mean,
president, and he wants the people to know his name, and he wants his name associated with firing woke people. So he went and he found one, and then he fired him.
well, he didn't have to look hard.
No, I, he's an
I
elected
mean,
Florida official. Like, so he's like, hey, find me a woke guy, and they're like, hey, we got this woke prosecutor. He's like, yeah, great, let's get rid of him. What can I do? And then he fires him for a stunt.
I don't know if that's how that happened, but okay.
Maybe it didn't happen that way. Maybe somebody came up to him and said, hey, we got this. Maybe he wasn't looking for someone, but he's using it as a stunt, I think. That's what it seems like to me. It seems like he is stunting. Um, so yeah, that is in the news at the moment. And they gave woke a really weird definition, and there's a graph of how many times they use the word woke. And so that's the DeSantis. What do we think about that, or the migrant transfer? If you want to talk about stunts.
Oh, that was just silly. I mean, whatever.
You think that was a stunt?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Okay, great. Yeah, because I think he wants to be running for president as the anti-immigrant candidate. He wants to be he wants the right-wing vote, and he does a stunt to get their attention. And then they associate him with this totally lib-poning event.
It was kind of funny.
It was
I mean,
ridiculous. Oh, it was. I get the idea right off the bat. Hey, because that's been a common talking point for internet conservatives, internet Republicans. Hey, what if they went someplace nice? All the liberals would freak out and throw a fit, and then they didn't.
I wonder. I don't know if it's someplace nice. I think it's more like, hey, if you want them to come here so badly, how about you take them in your communities? Because
Right.
a lot of times they're being settled in red areas
Right, because
that
that's
didn't vote for them to come here.
I know,
So you guys take them.
I know, and then they took them and did what was legal and put them on a path to the proper uh, um, refugee status, and then the state of what was it, Massachusetts? Yeah, the state of Massachusetts paid to get them to the right place and took them in for a couple of weeks. But
Yep.
that's not what the right-wing memes said. The memosphere on Facebook said, haha, we finally sent them there and they threw a fit. But they didn't throw a fit. They didn't cry. You didn't pwn the libs. This guy didn't epically own anybody. But the right-wing memosphere on Facebook says he did. And then I brought up some stuff about the Stop Woke Act. Did you have anything about that you want to talk about?
Not really. What did you want to talk about it?
I was just thinking like how it relates to the culture war, and now that we've got a definition of woke in the courts, um, how it affects the Stop Woke Act. I couldn't find anything about the Stop Woke law specifically.
I found it.
Yeah, what you got?
See, the law prohibits teaching certain concepts related to race. Prohibited teachings. 1. Members of one race, color, national origin, or sex are morally superior, or members of another race, color, national are morally superior to members of another race, color, national origin, or sex.
Okay,
So prohibits teaching supremacy of any kind.
that sounds fine.
2. A person, by virtue of his or her race, color, national origin, or sex, is inherently racist, sexist, or oppressive, whether consciously or unconsciously. Inherently.
Unconscious bias exists.
3. A person's moral character or status as either privileged or oppressed is necessarily determined by his or her race, color, national origin, or sex.
Hmm. Okay.
Or members of one race, color, national origin, or sex cannot and should not be attempt to treat others without respect to race, color, national origin, or sex.
Okay.
A person, by virtue of his or her race, color, national origin, or sex, bears responsibility for or should be discriminated against or receive adverse treatment because of actions committed in the past by other members of the same race, color, national origin, or sex.
That's not happening. I mean, let's make a law that it's illegal to flap your arms and fly.
A person, by virtue of his or her race, color, national origin, or sex, should be discriminated against or receive adverse treatment to achieve diversity, equity, or inclusion.
I don't think that's happening either. That's one of those things that I've been talking about, that conservatives are worried and afraid of things that aren't happening, that aren't real.
Interesting. A person, by virtue of his or her race, color, national origin, or sex, bears personal responsibility for and must feel guilt, anguish, and or other forms of psychological distress because of actions in which the person played no part, committed in the past by other members of the same race, color, national origin, or sex.
And that right there is, I think, the crux of it. When a college professor says, "Hey, white people did bad things in the past," and a white person feels bad today, they're upset about it. This is feelings. This is feelings over facts. I can't hear that sentence any other way.
I don't think that's feelings over. I mean, it's
Talk
not.
about the
Hey,
facts.
some white people did bad things back, in this period of time. Uh, the specific wording here is bears personal responsibility for and must feel guilt over.
Right. How do you?
So you can teach that it happened, just
Mhm.
not that the people you're teaching are, you know, personally responsible for it.
No, if they teach it happened, someone will feel guilty and then sue the school district for feeling guilty about what they were taught. That's the plan, if you ask me. And I'm being not
No
very
way.
charitable. I'm not being charitable towards Florida or the Republicans here. I recognize that, but I think that is their intended plan. They want
Yeah, there's just no way.
schools. They want schools to be afraid to teach these things. You don't think they want schools to be afraid to teach this stuff?
Doesn't the Department of Education, which is an executive, or a part of the executive branch in each of these states, in charge of the school curriculum? So if they did want to stop teaching things like slavery and whatnot, wouldn't they just adjust the curriculum so that it was not taught?
The Department of Education federally isn't as powerful as the state of Florida uh, education boards and stuff like that. And conservatives hate the federal Department of Education. Um, they would like it to stop teaching certain things if they could. I mean, I'm not going to change the subject right now, but yeah, they want to control what the schools are teaching these children, because if they teach them certain things, they'll come to conclusions that lead them down the path of the left instead of the right. And so they want education to lead people to be Republican voters.
Well, the if you teach history, you just is all it's that this law is saying is, hey, you can't teach slavery and then say you as a white person are responsible and you need to take accountability for what these people did in the 1800s.
Nobody's doing that.
Hmm.
Nobody's doing it. They're teaching what happened, and then people, and honestly, it's not the history part. It's mostly the implications of it today. Systemic racism. The fact that the systemic, is racist, is what they are out against. When when you try and point out the fact that black men get higher sentences for the same crimes than white men, you're doing a critical race theory and that's going to be illegal because it makes white people feel guilty, and they're trying to couch it under language, which you just read the language in the thing there, and I think it's feelings over facts. I don't support the end point of the 1350. If you use it, it could be factually correct. It's probably close to factually correct, but the reason that it exists is worth studying. The end point that very hard far right Nazi types use that number for is not acceptable. Does that make sense?
All right. Which number?
1350.
Oh,
It is. They use it as a dog whistle. 1350 means that uh, black people are 13% of the population, yet they commit 50% of the crimes. And they use that number to say, "Oh my God, black people are terrible." And I don't agree with that end. Even if the number is correct, and even if the number is factual, what you ought to be doing is try to figure out why that's a factual number. Why does that happen? And that leads to the understanding of redlining and poverty, and why these people are mostly in poverty, and why they don't get job opportunities and things like that, and how redlining still exists. But once you start down that path, you're a critical race theorist, and the right wing hates you.
okay.
I think that's what they're trying to stop. They're trying to stop people from saying, "Hey, why did we uh, enslave these people all these years ago? Why did we? Why do they live in poverty?" Because the Republicans don't want you to think of those things, and they don't want you to ask those questions. That's just my endpoint of it, though. Critical race theory is a graduate level academic framework that explores how institutions perpetuate racism. How they perpetuate racism. School districts across the country have emphasized that it's not being taught at the K through 12 level. But the topic has become a catch-all target for conservative critics who argue that lessons or trainings addressing systemic racism will divide children and make white students uncomfortable. So the academic people have saying, "Hey, we're not teaching this in K through 12." And the Republicans, as I keep saying, are worried about a thing that isn't happening.
Isn't Stop Woke Act aimed at colleges?
No, it's aimed at all school districts in Florida, all of them, K through 12, all of them, and colleges, yes. And my assertion here, the thing that I am trying to suggest, is that the governor wants schools to be afraid to teach this. He wants them to be afraid to say certain words because they will get sued. And if they get sued, then they have to go to court against some MAGA hat parent who thinks that their child has been brainwashed, and you have to hire a lawyer, and then that comes out of school funds, and then the school has less money, and then the school cannot perform. It can't teach people anymore because it's spending so much money proving in a court of law that they didn't teach Billy critical race theory in 4th grade. And then what happens after that? The school actually does fail. The test scores start going down, and then Republicans say, "Hey, we need privatized schools. Private schools. Those are the answers." And then only the rich white kids get into private schools, and the poor people get into the garbage schools, and then we get more classism.
It's a long, slippery slope you're drawing here.
It is a slippery slope. I agree. Yes, you are correct. I am doing a slippery slope. But I honestly think that is a long-term Republican plan. I mean, it is one side that's pushing for private schools. I mean, it's the Republicans who are like, "Hey, these public schools are terrible. Let's take all their money and give it to private corporations, who then teach our kids a certain way. And then in taking the money from the public schools fail more. And then they say, hey, look, they did fail. Because you cut all their funding. This dangerous law is part of a nationwide trend to whitewash history and chill free speech. Chill free speech, that's what I'm talking about. They're chilling the free speech. He will infringe on teachers and employers' First Amendment rights and chill their ability to use concepts like systemic racism and gender discrimination to teach about and discuss important American history. And that, I don't like that idea. I think that's a bad idea.
Who said that?
This is
Oh.
the ACLU of Florida.
Oh, okay. She can think what she wants.
I mean, she's suing them about it, so.
Yeah.
And it has, at the moment, been stopped by a judge for being anti-First Amendment. That's where the Woke Act is at this moment. Been stopped.
Well, then it's a question of what kind of speech is allowed in classrooms, isn't it?
Well, sure. The governor of Florida has said this is not allowed. This certain type of speech, and you read the guidelines that he's put forward, and
I don't have a problem with them.
I think it's actually. I agree with the ACLU lawyer. It's a chill and a free speech, and he put in a way to sue the school if those laws are broken, the ones you read that you agree with. That's fine. Do you think that those things should allow for a parent of a student to sue the school? Are you on board with that part of the bill?
Where is that in the bill?
I don't know if you've gotten to it, but it allows for it. It's a different part of the bill. Let's see. They're not talking about it in this article. I'm not sure where it was, but I did read that the parents, if they think that those laws were broken, or those rules, those guidelines that you read are wrong, should they be allowed to sue the school? Stop Woke Act so parents can sue over critical race theory in schools. New legislative proposal would let parents sue if their kids are taught critical race theory in public school.
I'm very interested to see what the language is on this.
Let's see. DeSantis said Wednesday the Stop Woke Act would serve as an enforcement measure for the ban, since parents would be able to hold schools accountable for choosing to teach critical race theory despite the prohibition. Yeah, you can sue the school. Parents, if Billy comes home and says, I got a critical race theory lesson today, then the parents can sue the school. And then the school would have to hire a lawyer, show up in court.
Why can't I find a
Because it hasn't
the
happened
text
yet.
of this bill?
Oh, the text of the specific Stop Woke Act? I'm not sure.
Yep.
Because the internet is terrible and news sites are garbage. All of them. The only choice we have is to go to Twitter, which sucks and doesn't work very well. And then we all complain about Twitter. It's a completely different rant that I want to go on. Fucking news websites. They're nightmares. I hate them. DeSantis says Stop Woke Act allows parents to sue schools for teaching critical race theory. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Without being able to see what's actually in the bill.
DeSantis said the legislation, hypothetically, if this bill allows you to sue, because that's what everybody's agreeing. DeSantis says the legislation will give parents private right of action to sue if they think their kids are being taught critical race theory. It would also allow parents to collect attorney fees if they are successful in their suit. So the Florida government is paying people to sue their schools.
Well, I don't really know how that's going to work. I mean, you would think that it would quite quickly be made not possible again because the whole point of, say, for example, qualified immunity
Hmm.
is that you don't have a million people all trying to sue for the same thing, or you sue the cops, for example,
Hmm.
over, little things, right? So I can't imagine that if it does go through that it's been written in a way that's going to cause a glut in the legal system, which would just be dumb. But we'll see how it goes.
Oh, I think that's entirely the point. I think two things happen. I'm under the assumption that that's what this is suggesting. Uh, if a school is terrified of being sued because they don't have the money, they will change their curriculum to not teach reality. They won't teach history properly. They'll just avoid it. And if they do teach history and somebody wants to be vindictive about it, they'll sue them and then they'll lose money. And then, so it's a bad time. I cannot imagine this is a good idea. And the Stop Woke Act itself is being blocked by a judge. A judge has said this is anti-First Amendment. This is the handout apparently they were using. Schools codifies the Florida Department of Education's prohibition on teaching critical race theory in K through 12 schools. Prohibits school districts, colleges, and universities from hiring woke CRT consultants. Corporations protects employees against a hostile work environment due to critical race theory training. See, that's if you get taught CRT and you feel it was hostile towards you, you might be a bigot. Um,
Interesting.
if
Well, I
if
found a
Mhm.
I think what I think is the text of this bill.
Mhm.
I will link it to you.
Okay.
Looks like it's about right. Let's see. Unlawful employment practices, subjecting an individual as a condition of employment membership, certification, licensing, credentialing, or passing an exam to training, instruction, or any other required activity that espouses, promotes, advances, inculcates, or compels such individual to believe that any of the following concepts constitutes discrimination based on race, color, sex, or national origin under this section. Members of one race, color, sex, or national origin are morally superior to other members of another race, color, sex, or national origin, and all the other shit that I read earlier.
Mhm.
Um, and then if I search for parents on here, there's only 3 results. Student and parent rights. Parents of public school students must receive accurate and timely information regarding their child's academic progress and must be informed of ways they can help their child to succeed in school. Okay. They have statutory rights, including but not limited to the following: health issues, reproductive health and disease education. A parent makes a written request to the school principal shall be exempted from the teaching of reproductive health or any disease. Homepage of schools must include a link for parents' right to access and review the instructional materials. Provide a process for public review of, public comment on, and the adoption of instructional materials. Yeah, the only thing in here that even mentions parents is the last page and a half.
Then why are all these news people telling me they're going to sue over the
I don't
parents are going to
fucking
sue?
know.
I don't know. Okay. Why did the governor himself say they have private recourse?
It's a great question.
Okay. I'm going to look into that then. I'll try and find out if they actually can sue. Maybe these
Well, tell me what you think about this.
News sites are jumping the gun. Okay.
The legislature acknowledges the fundamental truth that all persons are equal before the law and have inalienable rights. Accordingly, instruction and supporting materials on the topics enumerated in this section must be consistent with the following principles of individual freedom. No person is inherently racist, sexist, or oppressive, whether consciously or unconsciously, solely by virtue of his or her race or sex. No race is inherently superior to another race. No person should be discriminated against or receive adverse treatment solely or partly based on the basis of race, color, national origin, religion, disability, or sex. Meritocracy or traits such as hard work ethic are not racist, but fundamental to the right to pursue happiness and be rewarded for industry. A person, by virtue of his or her race or sex, does not bear responsibility for actions committed in the past by other members of the same race or sex. A person should not be made to feel discomfort, guilt, anguish, or any other form of psychological distress on account of his or her race. Instructional personnel may facilitate discussions and use curricula to address, in an age-appropriate manner, how the freedoms of persons have been infringed by sexism, slavery, racial oppressions, racial segregation, and racial discrimination. This is on page 19.
19.
And racial discrimination, including topics relating to the enactment and enforcement of laws resulting in sexism, racial oppression, racial segregation, and racial discrimination. However, classroom instruction and curriculum may not be used to indoctrinate or persuade students to take a particular point of view inconsistent with the principles of this subsection or state academic standards.
That last bit right there is strange. Does not bear responsibility. Nobody's saying that you're responsible for slavery. Nobody is teaching that a fourth grader is responsible for his ancestors enslaving people. No, it's not happening. This is a thing that isn't real, that Republicans are making laws against. A person should not be made to feel discomfort. That is some shitty legal language, man. How do you prove somebody felt something? I mean, guilt, anguish, or any other form of psychological distress on account of his or her race. I agree that nobody should make you feel that way, but putting it into law is weird and dangerous.
Well, then, I mean, it's just a matter of, is that going to be and that's what? Section F? I mean, do you have a problem with A through E?
No.
Okay. So
E
F
maybe,
is the problem.
Yeah, E and F, yeah. And that is how, yeah, that's the issue, is that I think, hey, we said all the really good stuff, and then at the end we tack on, hey, shouldn't be made to feel discomfort, or else it's against the law.
Well, we'll have to see how that plays out. If anybody does try to challenge, let's say that this legislation stops being held up by the courts and goes into action, we'll have to see how that gets enacted.
Okay.
I think is because it's just as much the law as it is the implementation of the law that's important. So we'll see. I think that it's been blown out of proportion. It sounds like, at least if this is the text, which, I mean, it has a lot of the same. It's almost, some of these articles are copy and pasting some of the things that are in here. So I assume that this is the actual bill.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really have a problem with it.
Okay.